Hi, my name is Angela Szelag, and I have been at Hot Shops Art Center for going on 6 years now, and I make jewelry. So I'm mainly a silversmith, but I also dabble in painting because it's fun. So I am the maker behind Tranquil Sky Jewelry, and you can find me at Hot Shops located in Studio 220 on the second floor in the far back corner. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about what it all takes to make a ring, because I don't think people really understand all the steps that go into making a ring. So just as an idea, this is what we're making today. This is one that I have finished, but if you can see, it doesn't start out like this. What it starts out like is a piece of silver, which is, this is just a scrap piece. They usually are shinier, but it has my fingerprints all over it because I've been using it. We'll start with some bezel wire, or it's basically just a strip of silver. It's a little bit flexible. We use that to hold in the stone. I've already selected a band style. I cut this, and I'm gonna actually cut it again to size, which I already did all the math, so I don't have to bore you guys with that. And then just a little detailed wire. So all of these components, along with the stone, go through stages. So you can see the first stage, I already made the bezel, and then I attached that to the base. So this is what's gonna actually hold that stone into place. But that's not the last step. The next step is going to be placing twisted rope design around that, which if you can see here, it's going to create that little detail around there. And then this has been sawed and filed as well as sanded to finish that out and make it a little cleaner. Plus we've created this band and then the stone. The next step after that is going to be taking the base of the ring with the detail and bezel and attaching it to the ring. So this is kind of what that's going to look like. And you can notice that it's not that really shiny silver color like the finished product. This is what silver looks like before it's polished. It's kind of a white color. Silver's kind of porous. And what we do is we put this into a solution called pickle. It's kind of like a borax solution, or some people make it at home with vinegar and salt as well. And what that does is it takes out any impurities or like stuff that gets on the surface or fire scale. So what fire scale is it's like this purple color that's underneath the surface of the silver. And we don't want that. What that is that's the copper content from the silver that's rising to the surface or just right underneath that. So what we're gonna do today is I'm actually gonna show you how to make the ring part of the band, or the band part of the ring. And I already did the math, so I'm gonna go ahead and saw this out. So what we do is we use a jeweler's saw, and this is a fancy one. You can get other ones, but this one's my favorite. And we're gonna use what they call burr life. It's kind of like beeswax. It just kind of lubes up that blade on there, so it helps the blade slide through the metal a little bit easier, and it makes it go a little bit faster. So when you're sawing, you wanna make sure your fingers are not in front of this because this is extremely sharp. So what we'll do is we're just gonna get on in here, and we're just gonna keep that blade vertical and make sure that we don't create a lot of tension on that saw frame, because what that does is it creates tension on the blade and then it'll snap. So easy peasy, that's cut there. Now the next step is making sure that these ends are completely squared off. So what I like to do is I like to use this little thing called a miter jig. And what this does is it helps jewelers create specific angles and things, so you can see there's different options to choose from. But for today, we're just gonna use this straight one. So what I like to do is I'll line this up in here, and we're gonna just get that so it's barely over the top. Tighten that up, and we are going to file it. This will take just 1 second. And the reason that we're doing this is when we go to create the shape for the ring, it's not going to be round, it's going to be more of an oval shape like this. We want those ends to match perfect, because if there's any tiny little air gaps in there or anything, it's not going to completely seal when we go to solder that. And that could cause your ring to open up down the road years from now, or when you're trying to shape it after we solder it. So let's see here. We'll get this other end. The sound becomes really meditative if you do this a long time. Other people might think it sounds like nails on a chalkboard. If that's you, I'm very sorry. But at least it was quick. Okay, so our next step is going to be shaping this band into an oval. Now this takes a little bit of hand dexterity, so if you're new to making jewelry, you might find this step to be a little bit hard at first, but it does get easier. So what we do is we use a plier that has a half round side and a flat side on the other side. And I kind of like to hold these kind of funky just because for me it helps create leverage and it's a lot easier on my hands and my wrist this way. So we are going to create this U shape first. We're going to slowly shape this up on each side. We don't want to go in too quickly on one side first because then those ends might not meet in the middle. They might overlap and it'll just make it a little more work for you. So we'll kind of come back in here and I'm going to slowly start turning that in. All right. Okay, so we're bringing those in a little bit closer. And we're almost there. Now we want to make sure that there's no gaps in here. Right now I don't have that fully closed in, so if you see that's not touching all the way, there's light that comes in between here. So we're going to close that up a little bit more. So we're just going to kind of push in, do a little technique where you're going over and under. I don't really use like technical terms because, well, I don't know, I'm self-taught and I just told myself that's what it is. All right, so. And it should snap into place when you have it ready to go. Alrighty. So if you take a look there, you can kind of see the difference. There's no gap in there, so when we hold it up to the light, you won't be able to see through. So our next step after this is actually soldering. So we're gonna play with fire here in just a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull my hair back because safety first, and then we're gonna head on over to the soldering station. We are gonna go ahead and get started soldering. There's a couple different steps for this part. What we're gonna do is we're first gonna use what we call flux. And you can get this in a liquid form or a paste form, or there's also a spray form as well. I prefer the liquid form because I like to be able to control it, and I think it helps, personally it helps me more. So we're gonna apply this all the way around that band. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna help the solder run when it comes time for that to flow. And it is also going to help keep that metal from getting fire scale, which is that purple color that's right underneath the surface. You don't want that on a really shiny finish for silver because it almost looks like there's a shadow in there and you can't just get rid of it. So there's different kinds of solder. For this particular project, we're gonna use hard solder. I like to get them in chip form. You can buy them in a sheet or in wire, but they're tiny if you take a look. They're itty bitty. So this part takes a little bit of patience. What we're gonna do is we're gonna apply a couple pieces right onto the seam of the ring where we want to connect them. And we'll see if my hands work today and when I actually pick one of these up because it's testing my patience. There we go. All right. These are going on the inside of the band. The reason I'm putting these on the inside is because the inside of this band is a flat surface. So that surface is going to be a lot easier for me to file away any imperfections once that solder runs. Whereas on the outside, there's kind of a curved texture, so it's not going to go as easy. It's not going to file as smoothly. And I'm just putting one more on here because I had one that fell off onto the thing. Okay, so those are in place. So the next step is going to be turning on the fire. So for today, we're going to be using acetylene. You can use butane as well if you're starting to do something like this at home. You can use a little handheld torch, kind of like a creme brulee torch. So we don't want the flame too high. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just feathering. And what that does is it's gonna slowly heat up the flux that we put on there. And that flux is gonna kind of bubble and turn white, but at the same time, it's also gonna hold our pieces of solder in place. So you can see how it's starting to bubble. And we had one piece of solder that flipped off, so we'll pray this works. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go in and start circling. As you do this, the metal's gonna change colors. So it's gonna get darker, and what that is that's the flux that's burning off of the surface. And then at some point, the metal is going to start to get a little bit lighter. And that's right before the metal is going to start to change and get that temperature to where that solder is going to run. So we're right about there. So if you want, you can kind of come above and you can see this run. So I'm going to feather the joint, and it just ran really fast. So that's it. That's soldering in a nutshell. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that, always using copper tongs, because this is really hot, and putting it in what we call the pickle solution. It makes a really fun sound. So we'll let that sit in there for a few minutes. So I just took the ring out of the pickle. So you can see it's kind of like that same color finish as this stage of the ring here. So what we're going to do, the next step is opening this ring up so that it fits on the end of this ring mandrel so that we can size it down and make it round. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a rawhide hammer. It's a little heavy. It's got some lead in there just to give it some oomph. And I'm going to place that over the top of the bench pin, so it's wood on wood, so it's got some stability. We can try and do it out here, but it bounces a lot and it doesn't open as easy. So we're just going to hold that, and we're going to tap that open a little bit. And your goal right now isn't to make this round. It's just to get it so that it will open up and get on top of there. So that's big enough to where we can get it on there, but I'm going to open it a little bit more just because. So then the next step is putting it on the ring mandrel. So you can see it's not quite round, but it will be. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. So with this, you always want to be seated. So what I do is I kind of brace this against my hip bone, and I'll hold the top of that, and we're going to use the ring mandrel to hammer this down. So you're just going to slowly tap and turn. And as you can see, that moves down pretty quickly in size. And as I'm doing this, what I'll do is I'll also flip it around, because since this is tapered, the top part of the ring and the bottom part of the ring would be a different size. So you want to make sure you're always flipping it so it's consistently the same on both. And this isn't as noticeable on something that's like a skinny band, but if we're doing a wide band that has some texture to it, you'd really be able to tell because it'd be tight on that finger. Alrighty. This is hurting my finger. Flip that around one more time. And we're really close to my size, which is an 8.5. I'm at an 8.25. But anyway, if it gets stuck on there, all you do is just tap it. But that's essentially how you make a ring band. And the next step would be doing some finishing work to where, like you see, we can see the solder right here and also on the inside of the ring. We'd file that out, sand all of this, and then we would polish, and that would be the final stage of the ring. So that's how we do just this part of the ring. So I hope you guys enjoyed this demonstration, and if you guys are interested in taking classes, I am actually teaching how to make this exact project starting on Monday evenings at the end of September, and there are still a couple openings. So feel free to take a look on the website and check out the classes that are available, and I hope you guys are enjoying this event and you guys have a great day.